you so much for joining today's session. That is GitHub Copilot for the .NET. So let me share my screen. So today we will be going to talk about GitHub Copilot for .NET developers. So nowadays you must be hearing that the Copilot is like in much more demand in terms of working with various different activities, especially in terms of day-to-day development of applications and all. So let me introduce myself first of all, and then we can get started with today's agenda, what we are planning, and how we're gonna go through with this particular activity. Don't worry, I will not bore you more from the slide point of view. We will go through with a demo, and as well as we will get familiar with Copilot, how it works, and what are the things you need to take care when you are working with your particular development part of it. Yeah. So myself, Jigar Pathak, working in industry almost like now 20 plus years, worked on various different migration modernization project in real world. So in this particular session, we will be going to talk about the GitHub Copilot from the development perspective, how we can leverage that, how developers can become more productive using Copilot and improvise their particular day-to-day coding styles and adapt some of the particular standard features in terms of working with development and all. Having said that, I'll pause my camera just to get a better bandwidth and all, and we can focus on the content side of it. Yeah. So here we will be, first of all, I'll take you through with the concepts, and it will help you out understanding that how this particular GitHub Copilot going to be work out, and what are the scope or what are the options maybe we can have it in place, and then accordingly you will be able to visualize, or you can think of like what is the scope behind that. So here we will be discussing about the GitHub Copilot features. I mean, the way you see the mascot which I have prepared over here, or maybe you can say my slide title, what you see over here, right? And the graphics, what I have tried portraying over here. It's more about, if you see, it's more about like AI basically presenting particular coding practices or working with certain type of activity in terms of day-to-day development. So being a developers, probably we always expect that certain type of application to be built when we are planning to go ahead with anything. So our primary objective is we wanted to start, or we wanted to begin with our particular development activities. We wanted certain type of like process and approach in a way so that we can fine tune our particular development approach, and then we can have a better coding scope into the place what we are like looking at it, right? So that's basically the kind of standard objective. So here in this particular session we will be talking about like what is GitHub Copilot, what are the, I mean, how that GitHub Copilot works into real-time scenario. Being a developer, what all the options or features probably you can leverage from that, and then if you're planning to work with it, then what is the option maybe you will get it in terms of day-to-day coding practices what we are following. Here we will be also going to talk about, we will see a quick demo. We will talk about some of the features, which is something towards pricing point of view. So currently you will get 30 days free trial. Post that, if you are individual developer, or probably you're coming from enterprises and you wanted to extend that, you want to extend that particular your subscriptions, and then probably if you want to leverage this particular GitHub Copilot, then how you can work with it. So to start with, this is something GitHub Copilot definition, which I have tried portraying it, that it's a kind of AI powered coding assistance, specifically designed to boost developer productivity, and which is basically enable developers to code more quickly and concentrate on solving problems in their day-to-day development activities what they are following, right? One of the problem statement when we are developing applications and all, most of the organizations are facing is a particular code coverage, right? And following a particular standard code, the coding best practices when people are developing thousands or millions of lines of code. And the objective is that to streamline those particular process, and basically you can have effective code to be written, and it has to be comply with your particular various use case what you are planning to go for it. So during that particular process, when we are working with our particular coding practices and all that, we always wanted that our code should be normally when we go through with certain type of DevOps processes and all, right, so we do have some particular benchmark or coding standard has been set up into the organization. We always expect that code quality should be managed. We can have code coverage almost 60 to 80% beyond, and we can have some particular better code to be which we can reproduce, which can be like extensible, which can be comply with the design patterns or object oriented practices what we are following and all. So and it has to be like follow some particular proper documentation and commenting and all that stuff, right? So one of the problem statement is most of the time what we are facing is that to follow those best practices covering that particular code coverage related options and all of that, and improvising code quality in our particular system. So here I can say with the help of GitHub Copilot, it basically offers you various different options in terms of coding practice point of view. It will provide you a kind of approach where you can have your standard coding activities in place, and it will give you a kind of option, or maybe you can say it will give you a kind of like approach where you can simply plan with your you can focus on your particular problem statements, you can break down your particular code functionality, and it will provide you a kind of code suggestions which you can inherit in your particular development. So when I say code suggestions, it will not forcefully like forcing developers that to go ahead with so and so code and then they can ingest into their particular day-to-day development, right? It is more about you get the valid suggestions, you will be able to focus on your core practices, and then probably you can improvise your particular day-to-day development practice what we are looking at it. So the objective over here is that to provide you a kind of AI powered coding assistant, which is something designed in terms of going through with your particular day-to-day development process what we are following up, right? So GitHub Copilot, it's an AI coding assistant which help developers to write their code faster with less effort, and focusing on the various different problem statement what we have. So here I can say, and having said that, it will definitely help you out in terms of improvising your productivity. So here, uh, the usage of GitHub Copilot. So here I can say GitHub Copilot basically uses OpenAI codecs in terms of reference. So it's basically a kind of you can say, I mean, the scope of this particular GitHub is more about focusing on the scope of maybe you can say it is using public code and text from the internet. It's basically a kind of trained model. It's like a natural language NLP model, which allows you to basically capture the informations coming from different public code, and most of the time like open source community, and like different particular code syntaxes and other particular standards what enterprises following up. So accordingly it will pick up those references, and then it will get recommended via this OpenAI codec. So it will be using kind of GPT framework, and then it will allow you a particular certain type of suggestions as a part of it. So Copilot basically provides suggestions, and it will basically provide you a kind of option. Being a developer, you can pick up your particular choice of your frameworks, right? Whatever the particular frameworks or whatever the ID you are expecting, So it will provide you a kind of option, and from the development perspective, you will be able to go ahead with the standard IDE, and you can improvise your particular coding practices, what we are looking at it. So the scope of GitHub Copilot is to provide you suggestion. It will provide you editor contacts. It will also come up with the chat, GitHub Copilot chat features also built in into the system. We will talk in a while. And over and above, like you can focus on your particular standard coding best practices, and then you will be able to work with your particular components, or work with your particular application code, what we are looking at it. So being a developer, your role is basically to install and configure GitHub Copilot with your choice of your tool chain. So probably if you're working with Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, right? So whether it's .NET Core, whatever the framework you are planning to follow up, you can connect with one of these particular framework, or maybe you can say the IDE, and you can install your particular extension as a part of it. You also need a particular you also need a particular license to be procured. If you're a student or teacher, right? Maybe you need valid, you can say, student ID or the email address coming from your school or university, which you can use it for taking the benefit of GitHub Copilot, and you can focus on your particular learnings and as well as improvising your code practices as well. So we will talk in a while about those licensing part of it. But yeah, in general, you can integrate that within your particular favorite ID, and then you can start working with your coding part of it. So it will provide you ID, mobile base features as well. Chat interface will be also part of it, and then accordingly you can improvise your coding practices. Now, I have highlighted very few features over here, that what are the particular features probably you may get it in terms of Copilot point of view. So Copilot basically help you out in terms of improvising your code quality, as I said. So one of the area which I always focus on in terms of improvising code quality. So normally what is happening? So worked on as per my career journey, worked on various different projects and solutions. So one of the problem statement always comes from the developer's point of view, that following up the best practices, taking care of the code coverage and code quality, and then they are supposed to basically focus or submit their particular code base into respective source control, and then probably sometimes they code may like get fail, or the code coverage like attribute may get fail, and they have to rewrite or rework on the code part of it, right? So here the primary objective is basically to provide you improvising your code quality. It will also like improve the code generation kind of activity, where you will be able to like generate your particular code, where you can provide the input, what is you are expecting. So for example, if you are writing some particular type of code specifically, for example, I'm planning to develop some web API. So there are some particular suggestions are given to you, and based on those suggestions you can say what type of which particular logic or what type of like mechanism, code mechanism you wanted to like utilize, and then accordingly you will be able to work with that. uh, there are other features also, like Copilot Chat, Copilot CLI, right? And it will also help you out to work with your particular activity, where you can integrate your particular favorite IDE. So, favorite IDE point of view, you will be able to connect and interact with your particular favorite ID. So I have highlighted a couple of IDs over here, like Azure Data Explorer Studio. You can have Xcode, Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, or various different particular IDs are there. So you can basically pick up one of the IDE. It will also support the different framework in terms of coding point of view, right? You can work with Java, like the .NET or Python, or any particular framework you are planning to work with it. You will be able to work with that, and it will help you out in terms of planning and working with your particular activity the way it is expected. So ultimately, the goal over here is that you just need to simplify that what kind of like options you are planning to go ahead with it, and then accordingly you may simply plug and play and work with the features what you are like looking at it, right? So it's more about following up with your development process, and then accordingly you will be able to like work with your particular the feature what you are expecting as a part of it, and then accordingly you will be able to like identify those particular options as a part of it. So in general, like different particular features and options are supported as a part of it, and then accordingly you will be able to integrate what particular kind of options you wanted to go for it, right? So as I mentioned that I have listed very few features. There are like many features are there which we can use it in our particular day-to-day development, and we will be able to go for it. As I said, I will not bore you with slides. We will just simply go ahead with our setup with the GitHub Copilot, and we will see a particular quick demo where you can plan with your particular .NET code if you are planning to go ahead with any particular suggestions or any sort of development activities and all, then how and what kind of like approach maybe you can follow along with it, and then accordingly you can improvise your particular coding practices what we are looking at it. Yeah. So here what we can do is that I have provisioned my so I'm using currently virtual machine in terms of setting up my Visual Studio environment. So what I have, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, both the particular options are part of it. So what I have used over here, so if I'm working with a Visual Studio Code, so currently I'm referring that Visual Studio Code is like quite popular IDE, and we will be focusing on that how we can use GitHub Copilot Studio over here, and then what is the options probably we can follow along with it within the GitHub Copilot and probably along with Visual Studio Code. So here what we need to do that when you are going through with any development, right? Like if you are planning to go ahead with any uh, scope with performing your particular code activities and all of that. So what is the expectation over here? So we are planning to basically identify that what are the features we wanted to like enable in our studio, how we can procure the license, and what are the things probably required. That is something we can take a look at it. Yeah. So here uh, the options what you can get it from the GitHub Copilot. So I have activated GitHub Copilot with my account. So here if you see somewhere on the right hand side bottom corner, this is GitHub Copilot mascot icon. If you see, this is the Copilot status menu. So if I click on it, it shows me currently what is the current status of my particular GitHub Copilot, whether it's in ready state, whether like I can start using it in my code base. Of course, I mean, you have to log in with your particular valid GitHub account. So if you are connected with your particular Visual Studio Code, then you need to connect and interact with your particular valid account, and then accordingly it will allow you to interact with your particular services, right? So here there is a particular nice documentation available. So if you are planning to work or you wanted to refer to something, then here is your particular documentation as a part of it. And let me show you this part. So yeah, here when you are planning to go through with your GitHub Copilot, first of all, it is expected that you need to particularly sign up with that billing plan. So by default, you will get two different type of billing plan. So it will be available in terms of, you can say, the $10 per month, and if you wanted to go ahead with like enterprise one, then probably you can subscribe for that as well. Here it will also provide you kind of 1 month free trial. So in that particular case, you will be able to work with various different options, right? So there are a couple of features that are included in terms of free plan, that unlimited public private repos, some particular actions are available, and then probably you will be able to work with those options. There are a couple of features are not included, right? I mean, so maybe they are listed over here. So if you are willing to explore the plans, right? So there are different type of plans are there. So it will be free plan or pro plan, or it's a paid plan, probably we can call it out. And there are like list of features are available. So being a developer or from the organization point of view, what particular features you are planning to expect, and that particular features probably you can integrate for your particular development activities what you're looking at it. So currently I have opted for free plan, and then maybe the next month onwards it will get converted into my particular paid plan whatever I have. So basically you can create your particular plan. Now if you are coming from, say for example, nowadays, like if you are coming from student or teacher kind of background and all, and you're studying in some particular universities and college and all that stuff. So in that particular scenario, it is expected that you can submit your probably student ID and official email address of your particular university or school or college what you are like working with it, and that will help you out in terms of acquiring the free trial or maybe the student based Copilot features into your development activities as well. So there are a couple of features available as a part of it. Yeah. So here, so I have procured one of the like free license for the month. As soon as you enable your particular account, there are a couple of features are listed out with the Copilot. Now these particular features probably you can enable it for your particular IDE. So currently I'm going to use, oops, sorry. Currently I'm gonna use my it's, currently I'm planning to use it my Visual Studio Code, and under this I have enabled, or maybe you can say I have activated or sign in with my particular account with my Copilot and all. So here if you see, like I have my Copilot chat and other features are enabled. So here is basically your particular feature enablement options are available. So you can say Copilot in github.com. So if you are connected with your code repositories and all of that, so it will provide you kind of features under that. Copilot and CLI. So if you are planning to go ahead with terminal kind of activities and all, right. So for example, I'll just show you or quickly take you through with a couple of recommendations. So if you are working with your terminals and you are looking for some particular sort of suggestions and all, so here it will provide you kind of explanations or some CLI based activity as well. So it's more about like what kind of features you are expecting, and based on that particular features you can enable or disable that particular recommendations in that case. uh, there are possibilities that certain features are under development as well, so they might be announced as in preview. So probably if you're planning to utilize them into your development, then maybe you can refer to one of these particular features, and then I can say maybe you can use it for R&D purpose or you can explore it. But yeah, I mean, from production point of view, maybe you can just ignore for time being, and then it will help you out in terms of working with those options the way it is expected. So ultimately, the goal over here is that to set up your GitHub Copilot, and then it will give you a kind of features or options what we are like looking at it. Here is the particular, I mean, I can say short and sweet documentations where you will get to know that what all the kind of features probably you can take the advantage when you are working with your choice of your editors, right? So for example, if I'm working with Visual Studio Code, then there are options available where you can go through with some particular code recommendation suggestions and all that. So nice documentation is available as a part of it. So here what we are planning to do, without wasting more time, we can take a look at it that what all the kind of recommendations probably we can go for it, and how we can leverage this particular activity as a part of it. Yeah. So in general, like let's say if I'm planning to utilize GitHub Copilot for my .NET code development and all, so here you can have some particular suggestions available which you can use it for your particular code based activity what we are planning to go for it. So the first option is like you can let's create a particular new project. So I'll go to my C drive, and create new folder, say my project, or let's say my API project probably. If I'm planning to build my particular APIs, then I will be able to go ahead with my particular development process, and then I will be going ahead with my particular API development and all. So normally from the data integration perspective, we always expect certain APIs to be integrated and all. So here from the command line interface, I can change my particular directory. I can connect with my particular, you can say the location. And here, so I'm planning to create my API project. So here we are going ahead with simple API specification, right? And say code space start. So it will take me to my Visual Studio Code editor, and here I will say, yeah, I trust the author, and then connect with my particular code base activity. As soon as you are logged in with your particular editor, if you see on the right hand side bottom, this Copilot status menu basically gets activated for you as soon as you open up your IDE, and it will be ready to use in terms of working with your particular code activities the way it is expected. Now, normally when we are going ahead with our development, or when we are planning to play around with our particular code base activities and all, so maybe you can simply play around with some particular options, or maybe you can say you will be able to create and configure your particular code base and all. So here I will create one particular sample file. Just wanted to show you the kind of demo that how effectively we can utilize this particular activity, so that it will provide you a kind of insight regarding your particular coding part and all. So here I'm planning to expect that if I wanted to enable a particular, you can say a chat related features, and I wanted to provide some particular descriptions, and then say, hey, generate some particular code for me, and if that particular code is appropriate for my particular development and all, then I wanted to insert that particular code in my particular file. So here I can press, if you're working with Windows environment, then you can press Control space I, right? So Control and I, if you press, then it will open up the chat related options, and from this particular chat you will be able to type it out what you are expecting as a part of it. So here I'm looking for, like, hey, uh, code for you can say sample controller class, or to be more precise, we can become, say, API code for sample controller class using. Now normally when we are developing with our API, so we always come up with HTTP get method, right? We always look for post method, put and delete, right? So these kind of particular methods, we are generally we use it in terms of particular API calling and all. So if you press enter, it will start creating a particular sample code for you. It will define that particular a complete suggestion that, hey, whatever you have asked, based on that, this is what the code suggestion I have, like using Microsoft .NET Core MVC, the system.collection generic particular class, whatever the even class also required, that particular gets imported. And here, if you feel that, okay, route API controller, that's basically a kind of path. And here, if you see some particular sample data also given, that sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, probably we can change and modify that, and it will return that specific data. So here we can have get, we can have post, we can have put, and we can have a particular delete functionality to be available. So the specific code which we are expecting to be integrated, and if you see, there is no you can say there is no additional code or additional particular functions or method written. It is just that to be more precise code what we are expecting for our functionality, it's given. Now if you are satisfied with this particular code base, here you can say like this code is not yet inserted in your particular file. Unless and until you provide your approval via pressing this accept, it will not be like inserted in your particular code base, right? So here I'll say like, yeah, I mean, this is something I'm good with it, and it will get inserted in your particular file. So this is like a kind of simple uh, option where you can plan and you can create your particular API based activity, and then probably you can have certain type of standard options or standard activity will be provided based on the requirement what we have. So it is like a kind of standard approach where you can simply plug and play and manage your particular overall activity, and then if you want to like write something or call out something, this is something probably you will be able to go ahead with that. This is one particular example. Normally, let's say if I'm looking for, let's say right now I'm not creating folder and file structures, right? I'm just trying to showcase certain type of demo that what are the best practices. Maybe we can go ahead and you can optimize your code part and all. If I'm planning to write something, my particular business logic for CRUD operations, when we are developing some particular application module and we are having to, we are planning to follow certain type of CRUD operations in our particular coding part of it, then in that particular case also, probably you can generate some predefined code as a, as per the context what we are looking at it, right? So here I will say, let's say I'm just giving file name just for understanding, like uh, let's say CRUD operation .cs, and here if I am expecting that I wanted to go ahead with my create CRUD based operation for sample controller API. So here it will generate the specific code for me, right? And here we can have a specific create, read, and update operations to be available, and that's something probably we can go ahead with our particular activity what we are like looking at it. So it's more about, if you observe that here what we are planning to go for it, it's like a kind of standard development practice what we can follow without like wasting a lot of time behind developing certain type of standard activities. We can just simply create, if you observe, it created with sample item class as well, right? So it is basically the sample item has been created. You can have a particular standard particular information is generated with some particular CRUD operations what we are like looking at it. So ultimately, like the goal over here is that uh, uh, you will be able to plan the overall code base. You can of course, I mean, whatever the right now I'm just demoing, so we have just a few errors regarding mapping of that particular class and calling that particular API controllers and all that particular stuff. But this is like in general, when we are planning to go through with certain type of activities where we can follow along with it and play around with this particular GitHub Copilot, where you can generate your particular code, and then probably you will be able to play around with the options or the features what we are like looking at it, right? So that's basically a kind of standard features what we can implement as a part of the developers, or maybe you can utilize them in terms of overall activity what we are looking at it, right? So it's like asking the features what we are expecting into the code hint point of view, and then accordingly it will give you a kind of option where you will be able to plan and manage, and you can go through with those options. You also have another feature in terms of GitHub Copilot suggestions. So for example, if you are planning with certain type of activities and all, and if you are looking at certain type of recommendation, as of now, I mean, this code is like readily available, so it is just giving me that standard particular options what I have. But if you are going to write any specific activity, right, so in that particular case, it will provide you a kind of suggestions that what you are looking at it. So here if you see, one of the recommendation is basically the GitHub action items, where if I'm planning to go ahead with my get items and all, so it will provide you a kind of code sense. So there are like two particular options are there, right? So if I say this is one of the particular method I'm planning to go for it, you just need to press step, and then it will add your particular method what we are like looking at it. So it's more about like multiple way to get the suggestions in your particular coding part of it, right? So one of the activity is more about you can say I. Control I basically open control plus I. This two particular key, if you press, it will open up your chat. If you press control plus enter, control and enter keys together, then it will open up this GitHub Copilot suggestions. So these suggestions basically provided in a way that if you have multiple options for the same functionality or for the same particular code base, then it will provide you that particular multiple suggestions which you can insert. Which one is more preferable for your requirement, you can add that, and it will allow you to go through with that particular process. And the third way is basically you just start typing with it, right? And it will give you a kind of recommendation that in your particular code, that what features or what particular additional informations you wanted to insert into it, and then accordingly you will be able to go ahead with that. So the overall objective what we need to consider is that uh, being a developer point of view, like you can have the choice of your particular code base, or maybe you can say utilizing this Copilot effectively into your particular system, and then probably you can leverage this particular feature to improvise your particular development productivity the way it is expected. So in a no minute, we can create a particular standard applications, and with the help of it, it will allow you to go through with the further activity or further options what we are like looking at it, right? So here it's created. I mean, normally what we do create like getter setter method, a particular separate class in terms of it. We also define some particular context to that particular code base, and then we go ahead with some particular controller where we can provide this particular create post or maybe CRUD operations in that case. Then we can provide all those particular features what we are like looking at it. So here the objective is that to provide you a kind of option where you can plan and manage and work with this particular activity, and provide you a kind of access towards the overall application development activities we are like looking at it, right? So having said that, this is more about getting started from the development perspective, where being a developers, like how you can kickstart your particular Copilot journey, improvise your particular code productivity and the features what basically Copilot is offering. I think this is best way to go for it, right? So let me know if you have any queries or questions. If you are looking for, I can happy to help you out answering those questions. And if no questions, then I think we are good to wrap up for the day. Happy coding, and then probably you can basically focus on your particular Copilot development activities, and then utilize this particular feature effectively into your development. Yeah. So let me know if you have any queries or questions so far.